When is a chair a chair? It depends on your point of view. When is a chair not a chair? Depends on where you stand, on perspective.
It doesn't make sense to let Red China into the United Nations. They aren't interested in peace.
From where I sit, it doesn't make sense to keep them out. At least around a table, you can talk things over.
Look, keep giving those countries foreign aid, and you create lazy nations.
Well, if we don't help them get started, they won't ever be able to support themselves.
Each of us sees the world with special eyes. Our vision limited by where we stand. Our feelings and experiences shaping different points of view on our country's foreign policy. Our views on world affairs flow into the State Department in Washington around the clock because foreign policy now touches all of our lives. These concerns, these interests, are essential parts of each foreign policy decision. One part, survival. One part, economic health. Another part, ally or enemy. Labor, management, the gold flow. And several parts of varying interests called North, East, South, and West.
We've got a war to win. I say go on and win it. Use everything we've got if we have to.
I have 2 sons out there. I'm thinking about them.
Those cheap Japanese shoes are ruining my business. I want protection. I might have to lay off workers.
My industry sells a lot of equipment in Japan. If you get more protection here, the Japanese may decide they want to shut out my products.
How many sides to a problem? As many as there are people. As many points of view as there are governments. And only as much time for decision as events will allow. Example, the United States recognizes exclusive fishing rights for any country only up to 12 miles off its shores. But some countries claim up to 200 miles.
Understand is why these South American countries or Latin American countries are starting to push us around. We have been fishing in their waters for the last 35 years, and just the last 5 years or so why they started to give us a bad time.
They had a man up there on a bow with a machine gun pointed at us all the time. Every move we made on a boat, why, the guy was just going around with that machine gun.
Something has to be done, or our industry is going to be hurt, and hurt very, very bad.
My dad, my brothers have all been in this business before me, and they never recalled anything happening like that before.
Well, they claim the 200-mile limit, where the United States only claims international waters, you know.
We appreciate fishing in their waters, but my Lord, not claiming 200 and be constantly harassed by these boats. We don't want to take anything from those countries.
We have every right and every reason for our claims. Our country is one of the leading fishing nations in the world, and fish is our largest export. The Humboldt Current is our greatest natural resource. Our economy is based on it. We are a poor country. We need to protect and preserve our resources. We need more protection than a country which is not so dependent upon fishing.
The tuna are a migratory group of fish. They may be in Peruvian waters for a couple of weeks, and next couple of weeks they'll be in Ecuadorian waters, and then they're on their way up to Central America and so on.
Any politician who will let foreign boats to come in at will to fish our waters will be called a traitor.
Well, I think something should be done. Either something should be done about it or send a Coast Guard down to protect us, protect American boats from being stopped by these Peruvian and Ecuadorian gunboats all the time. That's my opinion of it. They should have someone down there to protect us. Because if we keep going the way we're going, why, we won't even be able to pass by their waters.
I hope that our State Department can iron something out so that we can be able to work in comfort.
Please, consider us. I know we're small, but we have to live. Don't take our lifeblood away from us.
The problem seems simple. Our South American neighbors want to protect their fishing grounds by pushing the 12-mile limit out to 200 miles. United States tuna fishermen want their government to protect their livelihood by resisting these claims. The problem seems simple, but there are other factors. For example, 300 miles up the California coast, a different group of United States fishermen has still another point of view.
Well, it looks like the Russians have come to California. A year ago, they invaded Oregon and Washington, and it was quite inevitable at that time that California would be their next area of conquest. Here they are today in force. There's a big stern trawler down there, another one down here. I see two more. These are all large vessels of 3,000 gross tons. The last virgin territory for the Russian to wipe out. Last year, he denuded many of Oregon's and Washington's areas and left a marine desert. This stern trawler here is bringing in his net, which is 4 to 6 times larger than an American net. It's capable of taking 1 million pounds of fish in 3 days, which is the American average catch for 1 year. We can well see what's going to happen to our grounds here off of Bodego Bay. Already the fishermen here are complaining. For 2 weeks now, they haven't been able to get any black cod. This trawler is setting right on the black cod grounds today, just outside of the 12-mile limit. Earlier today, we ran into a trawler that was right on the 12-mile limit. What do these people do at night when we're not here? They work 24 hours a day.
Boy, nothing but heads in the stomachs. These Russians are really wiping us out. Government ought to put a limit on them and shove them out there 200 miles. Something's got to be done. I don't know what we're going to do about it, but somebody ought to get the bull by the horns and get a hold of the government and make them understand what's going on and do like they're doing in South America. They got them out there fishing 200 miles, and I don't think America should stand by and wait for South America to take the initiative.
Because we haven't got the equipment to move around the world as they have. But when you take a fleet of 20, 30, 40 ships, plus mother ships and supply ships, they're not here to help us. They're here to actually wreck our fishing grounds. People have worked this country, these grounds here for the past number of years, good 40, 50 years. And then again, you get these strangers coming in. And that's all we know, that's all we have. And once another fleet gets in here and starts depleting the grounds, they don't not only take the fish out, but they don't dump nothing back in that will reproduce. We don't have a chance. We're not going to survive.
They all have set limits from 50 to 200 miles.
We should take the initiative and put them out there 200 miles also.
In order to keep them well away, I'd say claim the territorial waters of at least 200 miles.
Latin Americans, of course, claim that we're inconsistent. They refer to our claims to the continental shelf and the Truman Proclamation. The
decision isn't as easy as it seemed at first glance. Even the United States fishermen want different policies. Other interests, other countries have still other views.
They say that our actions were based on conservation, in part, and they claim in turn that their actions are based on conservation in the Humboldt Current.
But the point you make about salmon is not really relevant.
These men are specialists. Some are part of the State Department. Some are called in by the State Department. There's an expert here on every factor which affects this policy problem, from conservation to coastal security.
Unilateral action to extend their exclusive jurisdiction over large areas of the high seas. And in their view, there's no warrant for this in international law. This whole question was studied by the International Law Commission for several years. And the conclusion they came up with was that there is no warrant in international law for extending your territorial sea beyond 12 miles.
The real problem here is a clash of economic interests.
But what is the political impact in the other countries? Could South American governments rise or fall on this issue? How will our other interests in those countries be affected?
Their economic interests. The problem goes even beyond the immediate tuna industry or the immediate shrimp industry.
What would be the consequences immediately and in the long run of American action or inaction?
Into the future, we can tell you roughly what the American people will be eating in the way of fishery products in the year 1985. What we do about this problem off Chile, Ecuador, and Peru will have a great deal to do with the ability of our people to continue fishing not only here, but in the Gulf of Mexico, and will have a great deal to do with the possibility of their having access to other resources in the future.
The movement toward decision is as deliberate as the problem is complex. But when the time comes, government must act, must decide. From all the facts that can be gathered, all the insights, a decision, not an opinion, must be forged. In this building, it may take the form of a recommendation to the Secretary of State.
Views have been considered.
National security, our allies, past decisions, the wishes of Congress, public opinion, impact on the United Nations. A national decision, once taken, is not lightly changed. Some decisions can only be made by the President and his Secretary of State, and some, the broad historic changes in a nation's course, can only be decided in the end by the people themselves. Is it time for increased trade with communist countries of Eastern Europe? The points of view are many and conflicting. Listen to the captain of this Polish freighter docked in Brooklyn.
I think that trading is a great thing and gives the benefit for all the people, for all the common people, I mean, to buy things cheaper and in a better quality than they could buy most probably in their own country. If you want to buy something, we would like to sell also something which will increase our shipping and will increase our understanding and increase our needs.
The more ships that come in, regardless of where they come from, it supplies more work for us. And we need work here. That's the way I feel about it. I can't support my family by staying home. I'm a longshoreman. We got to have ships to work on.
It's elementary just to figure out if you have more stuff coming in, more stuff going out, you're going to have more jobs.
We feel very strongly that the time has come for American business to start leading into business ties with certain countries behind the Iron Curtain countries.
The more they can sell to the United States, the more they can buy from the United States, and they're quite willing to do that. They're very anxious to do it. There are a lot of things that they can use here which have no strategic value, and I have no objection of selling Poland the maximum of goods of no strategic value.
Well, I don't feel that way. And even as a union man, there are no unions behind the Iron Curtain. There is no such thing as a strike. They don't make the wages we do. So even competition there would be no good for the union people in our country.
See, we have our young men, the cream of the crop over in Vietnam, losing their lives, and yet we have these big shot business people over here in this country getting rich, dealing with communist people. Now, you ask me, do I think it's right? I tell you, no, I don't think it's right. Either you join them or you fight them, one way or the other.
But if you're going to choose your people, you see, communism is a political thing. It's not the people. The masses of people are still starving. They don't even know what in the hell communism is itself. But we must trade with every last living soul on earth.
We ship out to communist countries indirectly, and we receive from communist countries indirectly. My argument is the international racketeer, the banker, the man at the in-between man is getting all the money out of this.
I believe if you're going to fight, let's fight. Let's not play around. Let's not give a guy $100,000 to buy bullets to kill my brother, my sister, my cousin. Don't make sense to me. Let's get over one way or the other.
We have a capitalist country here which deals. We do transact. So we spread the wealth over there. We not only make a good dollar for ourselves, but we help these people so that they can help themselves.
Bigger the trade we have, the better we know each other, and gives us some sort of competition between each countries to produce goods cheaper, in greater quality, and to satisfy all the needs of our both countries.
I have nothing against the Polish people or any other people behind the Iron Curtain, but I feel that every dollar that goes in there is helping the North Vietnamese people destroy our country.
And I also think this, that it would ease world tension. It might even bring peace to the world if we traded with these countries. It might even end all these so-called little wars that we keep having, that we don't really want. Nobody wants the wars.
Different interests, different points of view. Some see business opportunities. Some see jobs. Others see a betrayal of free labor. Some see encouragement for aggression threatening American lives and security. Others see bridges of understanding that might lead toward peace. From around the world, the problems and the pressures flow through the operations center of the State Department. The voices of the world speak in urgent accents, each for its own interests. 2/3 of the world is awake at any moment and troubled. Here in the office of the Secretary of State, the many voices of the world have to be sorted out and interpreted. The men who come to sit in these chairs bring the best in experience and knowledge our country has to offer. When the conflicts are greatest, the Secretary must personally recommend to the President the action to be taken by the United States. Before it reaches the Secretary of State, each urgent issue must be dissected by specialists. Dissection, analysis, appraisal is the task which fills the policymaker's day.
On nuclear tests, these seismic identification criteria seem to offer some real hope.
Yes, but it's only one man's opinion. Scientists are divided among themselves as to how far these techniques will take us.
How far would you have them take us? Would you accept, say, 1 unidentified event a year? 2?
I might, but how about public opinion?
Well, we're up against Soviet opinion, too. It goes against the grain of their whole history to accept on-site inspection. Espionage, they call it.
Well, it is the best regime they've ever had. If it falls, there's nothing better in sight. Probably something a good deal worse. Then it is an undemocratic administration, and it did come in by a military coup.
If we ask for this much money, again, a lot of congressmen are going to ask a legitimate question. What are they doing about their own food problem? What are they doing to limit population?
Well, I think we can answer that they're doing quite a lot to cut back on grain spoilage. Population control is another matter.
We've gotten calls from 3 different embassies over these blasted radio tubes. They're convinced that this is military equipment, and they wonder whether we've changed our policy.
Nonsense. Those tubes have no military application whatsoever.
This move's bound to be misunderstood by all the other Africans. We're going to be caught right in the middle.
I disagree. This is a legitimate business deal that helps our balance of payments, and I think these countries can be brought around.
Nuclear test ban treaties, recognition of new regimes, balance of payments, aid to underdeveloped countries, peace. The time comes when the pressures of the world demand decision. Each issue has its own complexities, its confusion of interests to be brought into focus. Here, and only here in this chair, in the broad perspective of national interest, the President must make the final decisions and be responsible to history for the result. Crisis. In 1948, the Russians and East Germans blockade Berlin, cutting off food and fuel supplies from West Germany. Their goal? To do away with the last island of democracy behind the Iron Curtain.
The Russians are bluffing. The city's cut off. It was lost anyway. You can't supply a city by air. Berlin's not worth a world war.
Send in a tank column now.
There were many viewpoints. A decision had to be made. Crisis. In 1958, the pro-Western regime in Iraq is overthrown by a coup. An externally supported revolt breaks out in Lebanon. The Lebanese government asks urgent American help.
Aid is enough. Arms and equipment, not men.
The whole Middle East is a trap.
We have a commitment. We've got to back it up. We'll find both sides shooting at us. It's bound to bring Soviet intervention.
The many sides were examined. A decision was taken. Crisis. In 1962, the Soviets secretly bring medium-range missiles into Cuba and begin to build launching sites threatening the United States and Latin America.
Negotiate. An ultimatum could mean nuclear war.
Blockade the island. It's the only way. Airstrikes will solve the problem. Surgical airstrikes. We could offer a trade, give up our bases in Turkey and Greece.
The factors were studied. The decision was made. Crisis. In 1965, revolt breaks out in the Dominican Republic, endangering the lives of hundreds of Americans and other foreigners, and threatening to develop into a communist attempt to seize power.
We have to protect our own people. Sending troops would be a major blunder. We'll have the whole island against us. Do you want a communist takeover?
If we send in Marines, we'll have to stay there 10 years.
Of such decisions, only history can be the final judge. What is certain is this, that decisions had to be made, and that decisions no less critical will always be before us. How can we bridge the growing gap between population and food, between rich nations and poor? How can we end the arms race and ensure against nuclear war? How can we make outer space a resource instead of a battlefield? How do we strengthen the United Nations to help build peace and the rule of law? These are questions not just for presidents, but for peoples. Not just for this nation, but for all nations. And only through understanding of all the factors, all the interests, all the viewpoints, can we hope to find the right answers. For this too is certain. There will be no easy way.